Hey everyone, Sam here with D-Life HD. I know it's been a while since you've heard my voice, hope you're all doing well. Today, I want to talk to you all about The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Master Quest.
Switch it up. I was a worker, had to upgrade to a boss. I had to switch it up. Used to live in the hood, but had to upgrade to a loft. I had to switch it up.
Before we get into the topic I want to talk about, I think I would like to give you a little bit of background on Master Quest for those of you who don't know about it. Now, I'm sure all of you big Zelda fans out there are fully aware of the history with Master Quest, but for those of you who don't know, after Ocarina of Time was a huge success on the Nintendo 64, the next project the Zelda team sought after was Master Quest, originally known as Zelda. It was planned for the Nintendo 64 disk drive, which, if you know your Nintendo history, didn't turn out so well. The disk drive is up there with the Virtual Boy and other failed Nintendo projects. So in time, the team moved their focus to Majora's Mask, and Zelda fell to the sidelines. But later, it was revived as a pre-order bonus for Wind Waker. Master Quest is Ocarina of Time with much greater challenge. Everything has been completely remixed. Items can be found in different locations. Dungeons have been revamped completely, where puzzles will be solved in sometimes obtuse ways rather than the straightforward manner they were solved in the original Ocarina of Time. And there are several changes to enemy placement and even somewhat changes to the order you can do the dungeons in compared to the original version. This was Nintendo's first time doing something like this, pretty much since the first Zelda on NES, which had its own second quest. Now, if you have ever played Master Quest, you'll know it is a very special experience. It has some of the hardest puzzles in the entire series. Sometimes that can be for good reasons, sometimes it can be for bad, but no one can deny that it's one of the hardest versions. That is until Master Quest saw a re-release on the Nintendo 3DS. You're probably thinking, what? It did? Well, if you have Ocarina of Time 3D, Master Quest is included absolutely free of charge with that game, completely remastered in the same style with 3D graphics and everything. You just need to beat the story once in the main quest and you'll unlock Master Mode. However, the reason I said that Master Quest was one of the hardest until this came out was because in this version, the 3DS version of Master Quest, the entire world has been flipped, similar to what they did with Twilight Princess on the Wii versus the GameCube. That's right, the entire game world has been flipped, and in addition to that, enemies actually do double damage in this version. So not only are the puzzles harder, but navigation based off of muscle memory is much harder, and combat is harder, which is something that Ocarina of Time was somewhat lacking in, was difficult combat. And I believe that the reason they did this was to help players have a chance to get acclimated to the brand new 3D controls. But once you are, combat is ridiculously simple, so having these extremely brutal battles where one attack can just destroy your life meter and incentivizes you to go after heart pieces, bottles, it's really awesome. I would say that Master Quest is classic Zelda, classic 3D Zelda, at its hardest. You are on your toes constantly. You are looking for puzzles that might not normally come easily to you. You are watching out for enemies, and you are just avoiding traps that the developers have placed for you. Okay, so that is a little bit of history on Master Quest. Why do I bring this up? Well, I recently completed Master Quest on Ocarina of Time 3D, and yes, I know, the game came out 10 years ago. What? I'm slow, okay? But yeah, I finally completed Master Quest, and while it was extremely frustrating at times, upon finishing it, I felt extremely satisfied in a way that no Zelda game has made me feel in a long time. Maybe I've just gotten too acclimated to the series, maybe I've just gotten too good with the puzzles, and maybe the games have just gotten easier. But this was a real challenge. I found myself dying over and over and over, and sometimes it would make me just put the DS down and come back to it later, but most of the time it really just made me want to push forward. And sometimes I would have to stop myself and say, no, I really need to go find some more hearts, and I really need to go get the rest of the bottles so I can take fairies with me. I really liked the puzzles too. Sometimes they would just make me scream, but there were just insane puzzles, such as in Jabu Jabu's belly. Instead of normal switches, there were cows that acted as switches. You had to hit the cows, and that never would have been something you would have seen in a normal Zelda game. And one of the hardest puzzles, and this is a bit of a spoiler, but in the final dungeon, one of the hardest puzzles I found was there was a switch inside a pillar of fire. It was visible, but you had to be pretty much walking around in first person to be able to see it. And so I was thinking I have to light these torches, but no, it's going against what you know about Zelda. No, you don't have to light the torches. You have to find that switch in the torch and hit it. That was the puzzle. So there were all kind of obtuse puzzles like that. It's a ton of fun. Anyway, I really loved that experience, and I was thinking, what if Nintendo did something like this again? We already saw a DLC release for Breath of the Wild, which was a master mode, and that did significantly remix quite a bit. It introduced harder enemies, it introduced quite a bit of changes, such as floating platforms and double damage, enemies re-healing if you didn't attack them for a while, but it was really only the combat that was made more difficult. Unfortunately, none of the puzzles were changed, none of the item locations were changed, and I think that is a real shame. Imagine if the approach taken with Master Quest had been taken with Breath of the Wild. Imagine being able to get lost in the world of Breath of the Wild again. Nowhere near, of course, the experience you would have had the first time, but still enhanced by the fact that they could remix puzzles, make the divine beasts more challenging, maybe even completely swap out at random when you play it again all of the shrines. What if you went into a shrine and you had no idea what you were going to find beyond some of the initial shrines in the Great Plateau? What if all of the shrines were randomized? This is not a concept that is really something new in the Zelda community, obviously. There are plenty of really popular randomizers that you can patch into an emulated version of the game, and it completely remixes the game at random, puts items in random chests, and basically just turns Zelda into a puzzle box. I've seen this is especially popular with games like Ocarina of Time and The Wind Waker, which are pretty open-ended, and it's pretty cool to be able to go in and just re-experience a game like that with no idea what's around the corner. But really, I've just been thinking about Breath of the Wild. That game is so focused on exploration, and a second playthrough is just very hampered. I find it's just not as fun. So imagine what it would be like if you had the option to go in a master quest and have not only double damage and harder enemies, but just randomized placements of items, maybe shuffle up where the side quests can be found, such as at the stables, shuffle up the NPCs. I'm sure some of it could be random, but some of it would definitely require a little bit of reworking. But if they had done this, I imagine they could have released that, and it would have held people over while we waited for the sequel to Breath of the Wild. But unfortunately, I think Nintendo is at a point now where, aside from the occasional DLC, we are not really going to see something like Master Quest ever again. It was definitely a one-off, even back then, having to release as a pre-order bonus for The Wind Waker and as an add-on in Ocarina of Time 3D. But don't be afraid, Nintendo. Really, get out there, make these Zelda games. If you want to re-release them, or just include a master mode, a master quest that really remixes everything, I think you should be doing this. You should be learning from what your fans enjoy and what your fans are creating with the randomizers and make an official version. It'd be so much fun to be able to play something like that. But those are just my quick thoughts on Master Quest. I had a great time playing Master Quest. I would highly encourage you, if you have a 3DS, probably the best way to play it would be there. Check it out. And I mean, hey, you gotta beat Ocarina of Time first in order to play it. So if you haven't done that already, then you really need to get on that, because that is a great game. Especially the 3D remaster. It's just beautiful. Really, really fun. But yeah, what Zelda game would you like to see a Master Quest for? I would love to discuss that with you guys down in the comments below. Personally, I would like to see A Link to the Past with a Master Quest, because A Link to the Past is one of my favorite games. It's my favorite Zelda game, and I've replayed it so many times now that I would really like a way to officially play a randomized or at least increased challenge version of A Link to the Past. But what about you guys? Yep, let us know in the comments below what kind of Zelda you would want to play. And if you have any ideas even beyond what was included in the original Master Quest on how to make a Zelda game harder or more fun, let us know as well. We got to talk about these things, and maybe we can get Nintendo's attention. Who knows? It's been done before. But that's all, guys. Make sure and hit that like button on your way out. And of course, if you want to keep talking with us, you can join our Discord. We'll leave a link in the description for you. Till next time, guys, always stay one up. Peace out.